Your pension is already insolvent. It just hasn't admitted it yet. 400 billion euros have already vanished from European pensions. If you're under 45, the retirement you've been promised may never exist. This isn't because of fraud or some market crash. It's something much worse. And the people managing your money know exactly what's happening, but they can't say it publicly. Think of it like this. You've been promised a house, but when you retire, all you'll get is the blueprint. Using their own optimistic numbers, there's a 400 billion euro gap between what European pension systems promised and what they can actually deliver, using realistic assumptions. That gap explodes to 6 or even 800 billion euros in promises that cannot be kept. This isn't speculation. This isn't a worst-case scenario. This is the gap that exists right now under current policies and demographics. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why European pension mathematics are irreversibly broken, which countries face immediate crisis, and what this means for your retirement security, no matter your age. But first, let me show you the one critical assumption that broke everything. Quick question. Do you actually know how much money is set aside right now to fund your specific pension? Most people assume there's a dedicated pot of money with their name on it, growing steadily. For most European workers, that assumption is dangerously wrong. Here's what actually broke the system. The topic actuaries discuss in closed-door meetings but never state publicly. European pension systems made one catastrophic assumption. They assumed the future would look exactly like the past. Specifically, that life expectancy, birth rates, investment returns, and economic growth would all remain stable. Every single one of those assumptions failed at the same time. When these systems were set up in the 1950s and 60s, average life expectancy was around 72 to 75. The retirement age was 65, so the average retiree collected benefits for about 7 to 10 years. Today, average life expectancy is 82 to 84, and the actual age people retire is closer to 62. This means the average retiree collects benefits for 20 to 22 years. Triple the original design. The ratio of workers to retirees was supposed to be around 4 or 5 to 1. Today, it's collapsed to 2.5 to 1. By 2040, it will hit 1.5 to 1 in several major economies. At that point, the math simply stops working. But here's what makes this truly catastrophic. The promises were made assuming investment returns that are now structurally impossible to achieve. Funds assumed they could generate real returns of 4 to 5% annually. That was reasonable when interest rates were 6 to 8% and economies grew 3 to 4% a year. None of those conditions exist anymore. Interest rates spent a decade near zero, and European economic growth has slowed to 1 to 2% in the good years. So pension funds promised returns based on 4 or 5%, but are actually achieving 2 to 3% if they're lucky. That gap compounds over decades. And here's the part that should genuinely concern you. Most systems hide this reality with accounting tricks. They use something called discount rates to make their future obligations seem manageable on paper. But the gap between assumed returns and actual returns is where that 400 billion euros disappears. Demographics inverted, returns compressed, and political systems can't respond fast enough. Now let me show you how this plays out across Europe. Italy is already past the point of sustainability. Pension spending eats up 16% of its GDP, the highest in Europe. Young Italian workers are being taxed twice, once for current retirees, and again for their own theoretical pensions. They should assume they'll only get 50 to 60% of what's promised. What about the Netherlands, the supposed model system? Even the Dutch system is breaking. They recently announced benefit cuts for the first time in decades because investment returns fell short. If the gold standard Dutch system is cutting benefits, what does that tell you about the others? Germany faces a double threat: pension stress and industrial decline. The system was built on high-wage manufacturing, a foundation that is now eroding. Spain looks safer than it is. Its demographics are terrible, with a birth rate of just 1.19. The key insight is that even the best-managed systems can't escape the math. So where does this leave you? If you're in your 60s, you'll probably get your benefits, but inflation will eat away at their value. If you're in your 50s, you're in the danger zone. Expect retirement ages to rise and your payout to be cut by 20 to 30%. If you're in your 40s, assume you'll get 60 to 70% of what's promised. And if you're in your 30s or younger, you have to stop thinking of state pensions as your primary retirement income. You are effectively on your own. So why don't politicians just fix this? Because fixing pensions requires immediate political pain for a long-term gain that another politician will get credit for. Raising retirement ages, cutting benefits, increasing contributions, it's all political suicide. So reform only happens when a crisis forces their hand. The system isn't just broken, it's designed to fail slowly right before our eyes. You've probably heard that many European countries are raising pension contributions to shore up their systems. It sounds responsible, right? But think about it. Higher contributions mean less take-home pay for you and me. That means we spend less, which slows down the whole economy. A slower economy means less tax revenue for the government, and guess what? That makes the pension gap even worse. It's a vicious cycle. Some countries tried a different approach. They shifted to partially funded systems, hoping that investment returns would save the day. But this created a double burden. Current workers had to pay for current retirees' pensions, while also saving for their own. That generation got hit hard. And the promised investment returns? They never really showed up because interest rates fell off a cliff globally. The core problem is simple. Demographics have flipped, returns are low, and political systems can't keep up. When pension systems are underfunded, governments face impossible choices. Option 1, raise taxes on working people. This crushes disposable income, slows growth, and encourages skilled young workers to leave the country. That's brain drain, which shrinks the tax base even more. The problem just gets bigger. Option 2, cut benefits for retirees. This hurts their spending, which damages local economies, and pushes more elderly people into poverty, increasing the strain on social services. Option 3, raise the retirement age. This can block job opportunities for younger generations and leads to a spike in disability claims as older workers, unable to continue, switch from one government support system to another. And then there's the silent option, the one governments often prefer, inflation. They can let the currency's value drop, so even though the pension payment number stays the same, it buys less and less. It's a stealth cut that erodes everyone's savings and purchasing power. Every single option is damaging. Now, here's the nightmare scenario that keeps policymakers awake at night. What if one major European pension system doesn't just slowly erode, but actually fails? As in, it declares insolvency and can't pay its retirees. The domino effect would be massive. If a system in a country like Italy or France were to enter an acute crisis, confidence in all European pension systems could evaporate overnight. Workers might just stop contributing, thinking they'll never see the money again. That would accelerate the crisis for everyone. Retirees might panic and try to claim their benefits early, overwhelming the systems all at once. Behind closed doors, this exact scenario is being modeled, but there's no public plan. Why? Because even talking about it could trigger the very panic they're trying to prevent. So the official strategy is a slow, managed decline, gradual benefit cuts, small increases in the retirement age, a death by 1,000 cuts instead of a sudden collapse. But the risk of a major crisis is very real, especially in countries with the most challenging demographics and economies. What's really happening here is that the social contract that defined Europe for 70 years is breaking. The promise was work for 40 years, contribute, and the system will provide a dignified retirement. That promise was only sustainable with the right demographics and economic growth. Those conditions are gone. Younger generations are now being asked to pay more into a system they will get less out of, all while funding the generous pensions of current retirees. Pensions paid for partly by debt that the youth will have to repay. The tension between generations is growing. And this is why it matters to you. The Europe your parents retired in, with its comfortable state pensions, is gone. It's not coming back. If you're over 50, your retirement security now depends entirely on which country you're in and how quickly the crisis hits. Retiring in the Netherlands versus Italy could mean a 50% difference in your real income for the rest of your life. If you're under 40, you are essentially paying twice. You're forced to contribute to a failing state system, and at the same time, you have to build your own private savings just to have a chance at a real retirement. The invisible collapse of European pensions is becoming visible. Most people will only realize the scale of this crisis when it's too late, after the cuts are announced and their options are gone. But you're seeing it now, while you still have time to position yourself. The math that supported the old system is broken. The demographics have inverted. The economic growth has slowed for good. This can't be fixed with simple political tweaks. And the silence from officials continues because admitting the problem would start the fire they're trying to put out. The system survives on the assumption that you won't do the math until it's too late, but you just did. Thanks for watching. If this gave you a new perspective, consider subscribing for more insights.